Hello, my name is Amali Dialwis. I'm the Managing Director of Microsoft for Startups. It is my great pleasure to be here today celebrating the graduation of our second AI for Good cohort. We are here to not only celebrate some of these amazing companies, but also to share a little bit about their stories and the way that they are having an impact on the world, and particularly around how AI is being used by them to change society. Now, as you can imagine, we couldn't have done this alone. We have had support from all different parts of the Microsoft business, and including our UK Chief Exec, Claire Barkley, who has been a passionate supporter for the programme. Thank you so much, Claire, for your support. In addition to our own Microsoft colleagues, we obviously have our fantastic partners, the Social Tech Trust, who have been helping these amazing companies to not only understand how to build good businesses, but to build businesses which have impact in the world, and build technology businesses particularly who can really play a positive role in changing society around them. Now I'm going to be handing over to Sutin Yang from the Social Tech Trust shortly to share a little bit more about the program and what we've done. But I would just like to say a thank you in between to obviously all of our partners, to STT, to our colleagues, to our trainers, and to the cohort themselves for making this such an incredible year and really exciting to be here and celebrating all of their successes. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoy it. And over to you, Sutin, to explain a bit more about the program.
Thanks, Amali. During the AI for Good UK Accelerator program, together with Microsoft and Microsoft for Startups, we supported 11 ventures to accelerate their journey to creating positive social change through AI in 4 sectors: Earth, accessibility, humanitarian action, and cultural heritage. We focused on supporting them in 3 key areas: in their business development, their AI build, and their social impact strategy. Over the course of an intensive accelerator program from February through June, we've worked on moving seamlessly to virtual delivery due to COVID. We also gave these ventures access to knowledge and resources via expert workshops and one-to-one support sessions. We helped them build their networks and businesses through introductions to our own networks and other potential customers, partners, and investors. And we also helped them raise their profile and show others how social challenges can be solved through technology to create a better future for all of us by community events like these. Now today, each of our startups will briefly tell you about themselves and what they do before we launch into 3 panel discussions and a fireside chat moderated by well-known organizations in each sector to discuss the key issues in these challenge areas that our cohort is helping to address. Now let's get to the fun part of the day. I'm excited to introduce you to our first moderator, Simon Gillespie, the former CEO of the British Heart Foundation, who will host a panel discussion on how we can enable people and communities to lead healthier lives with 3 of our cohort members: Ben Wilkins from Good Boost, Kelvin Sumugam from Myicare, and Martina Ratto from Mycognition. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Simon Gillespie, and I used to be the Chief Executive of the British Heart Foundation.
I'm Ben, CEO of Good Boost and an MSK clinical champion for versus arthritis. Good Boost began in response to the growing challenge of musculoskeletal or MSK conditions such as arthritis, back pain, and knee replacement surgery. My background as an MSK clinician and researcher paved the way to look at novel solutions using technology. Good Boost supports people to manage their joint and pain conditions by creating individually tailored exercises with our clinical AI. This is delivered through our app that's been co-designed with older adults living with MSK conditions. Our technology delivers personalized rehab programs at home and in community venues such as swimming pools, offering sessions both on land and in water. We transform any space into a therapeutic place so people can move more, have fun, and feel better.
The world population is getting older. The elderly are living in fear, and their families are worried about their well-being. This is where we come in. We are Mycare, an AI-based company specialized in the area of geriatrics. And we have one simple purpose: to help the elderly live safe, healthy, and connected with their loved ones. Thank you.
Hi, I am Martina Ratto, cognitive scientist at Mycognition. Mycognition is a science-based company dedicated to measure, monitor, and improve cognitive health using digital technology. Cognition is the root of all our behavior and our ability to think, perform, carry on our activities and life goals, and to manage stress and emotions. Good cognitive fitness allows us to prevent mental illness while building resilience and sustain health. With AI, we can provide everyone with a personalized solution for mental well-being, tailored on their own needs, regardless of their age or their health condition. This is our mission, changing the world one mind at a time.
Well, welcome everybody, and it's good to have Ben, Martina and Kelvin here in particular today. This is a really important and vital moment. It's an opportunity to wrap up the programme, reflect on what's been learnt and what's been experienced during the course of it, but also to look ahead and hopefully be in a position to share with the broader community and with investors what's happened and where you've got to and where you see the future. So I'm going to run through some questions now for each of the three that we have with us, and then some questions at the end. If you violently agree or disagree with what's being said, then please ask the other two to pitch into any answer. But I'd like to start with Ben, if I may. Musculoskeletal conditions affect millions of people across the UK, tens if not hundreds of millions of people globally, responsible for nearly half of the sickness absence in the UK. They're a really important range of conditions, often overlooked, but dominate people's worlds in many cases. COVID's changed and we regard health and care in a different way. Many facilities have been closed and actually been difficult. So what's Good Boost done in response to the COVID crisis? What's changed and what's changed you?
Yeah, you're right, Simon. The impact of musculoskeletal conditions is huge. It's not just a niggle in people's knee. It's not just a bit of an ache in people's back. It is the primary cause of disability worldwide. Within COVID, physiotherapy has been affected. Joint surgeries have been affected. There are over 200,000 joint surgeries a year that haven't happened. And things like isolation has meant that people over 70 of long-term health condition are doing less activity than normal. What we know is the older you are, the more activity you need, the more long-term health conditions you have, the more activity you need. And as Good Boost, before the pandemic, we worked only in leisure centres and swimming pools. The way that we've responded is to retrain our clinical algorithms, our artificial intelligence that work to create individually tailored aquatic rehabilitation programs to now work on land. We've released it as a publicly available app that is available for download anywhere. And we work very closely with a lot of MSK musculoskeletal charities in order to promote and engage people so that they're able to use it. And a key thing for us around accessibility has been a genuine co-design and a co-production principle. At the start of the pandemic, we completed lots of digital focus groups to understand for older adults, people living with MSK conditions, what did they need a public app to do? And we've been very close to them working around the user interface, the user experience to make sure it's right for them, because just giving someone exercises isn't enough. They have to feel they want to do it in the first place, and the look and feel of an app is imperative to achieve that.
But that's great. I mean, what seems to be coming through from there is, if you like, responsiveness and agility for your organisation, but also a real sense of what people on the ground with multiple musculoskeletal conditions are experiencing. So thank you very much indeed for that. Can I turn to Martina? Because mental health issues have often been underrated. In the UK, we make a lot now about the parity between mental health and physical health. But actually, in reality, of course, there's a lot of catch up to be done. And there are some very complex interplays between mental health issues and physical health issues. You started in one place at the start of the lockdown. There have clearly been strains imposed on people's mental health with isolation and lack of access to family, friends and other normal support networks. So what have you done as a response to that?
Thank you, Simon. We immediately realized that this would have been a huge problem during the crisis. So on one side, as you said, there is the mental health problems, which is linked to the isolation and the anxiety, which is linked to the situation, but also the mental health problems that are linked to the physical health condition as well. And we know from our scientific research and the literature out there that cognition plays a very important role in regulating not just stress and anxiety, but also the immune response of the body through the regulation of cortisol and cytokines in our bodies. So we a great responsibility in terms of giving people a tool to enable them to build resilience, not only to mental health, but to inflammation as well. And the way we have acted is to make our solution available to as many people as possible. So on one side, we have immediately provided specialized content so that people can be aware about the role of cognition and the way they can improve it. We have made available our Healthy Habit program, and a learning program that people can use to make routines, so strengthening and maintaining mental health. And we had a number of different partnerships, and through this we have seen an increase of the need of people in terms of downloads of our solution. So we have seen an increase of about 180% in download, which is very significant in terms of people realizing the need of looking after their mental health. So we have partnered with the NHS through online services. We partner with GPs in terms of providing digital prescribing that allows even elderly people to access the solution more easily, while our main target with the online providing is mainly people between 20 to 40. So we were very happy to see that the uptake of 50 plus has increased as well. And we have tried to partner with as many realities as possible, like schools, clinics for children with PTSD, for example, providers of perinatal mental health care. So a number of different stakeholders, and we have provided to them in order to reach as many people as possible.
Brilliant, Martina, thank you very much. You mentioned elderly people in the course of that, and you said 50 plus, and as somebody who's 50 plus, I wouldn't yet consider myself to be elderly, but this is a really important issue, and it actually brings me in very neatly to Kelvin, because there are millions of older people who have been isolated before the pandemic even started, and are probably almost certainly feeling it far worse now, and the evidence seems to indicate that as well. This is a really important moment for you. So what's happened then with Mycare, and how have you changed as a result?
So before I start, I want to say that the new old is 95, so I am told. And but yeah, the pandemic has been very tragic, and for us to do something meaningful about it is if we add meaning to it. And what we've seen is a lot of the older adults have been on isolation. Their families can't meet them. They can't go out, and you can think of it as being solitary confinement. And we all know that is one of the worst torture you can give to a human being. And as a company, Mycare, we looked at this problem, and we wanted to do something that essentially would create, bring back the entertainment factor, and we've tried to engage with the elderly through Zoom, through telephone. And what we've done finally is to kind of give a voice to our device, MyCube. And what that voice does, very simple, it asks them questions, things like, how was it during the war? And everybody who's got a grandparent, you all know that when you ask that question, sit back and relax, because that can be a very long conversation. But by motivating them, the older adults, to have a conversation, they forget that they are alone. But loneliness is not the only issue, because when they are closed at home, they don't exercise enough, they don't have fresh air. So we've been monitoring those their body vitals very closely. And so the cube will motivate them to move about and get some exercise. And also, if you don't have oxygen by breathing fresh air, you can try to compensate by drinking more water. And so what we're doing now is to kind of motivate them to keep hydrated. And the way we do that is not just by saying to, say, Doris, please have a glass of water, because we all know when we ask an older adult to do something, that can be a bit patronizing and they do not listen. So instead, we've had recourse to different ways by working very closely with neuroscientists. And hydration, for example, the way we motivate them to hydrate is the cube will say to them, I'm feeling really thirsty. How about you? Because then it triggers that thought in their mind. They will make their own decision to hydrate and don't feel that the cube is telling them what to do, so to speak. But in the background, we also try to monitor their movement, so moving from rooms to rooms. And if they are okay to do so, we try to measure their step and keep them mobile. And typically, the number of steps that we target has been coming from their care plan, talking to their carers, to their GP, and the cube will be configured to motivate them to try to meet those targets. From time to time, the cube will tell them some jokes, some good jokes and some bad jokes, but at least it helps them not only from a physical perspective, but also from an emotional perspective, because physical well-being and emotional well-being are very important.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, all three of you. There's been some really interesting stories coming through there. I'm going to ask you the same question to each of you in turn in a moment. And what I'm really looking for here is something that stands out for you, for your experiences, both in the program, but of course in the real world over the last 6 months or so. So from your own areas and the work that you've been doing, what's been or will be, do you think, the biggest impact on real people, the people that you're delivering services for? And can I start with Martina for that one?
So I think the biggest impact and potential is on the prevention side. So what we can do is providing a solution that it is even before and outside the healthcare system. Obviously, that would help and support the actions of the healthcare system, but we have a possibility to offer a solution for every of the health state. So there is anything such as mental illness or good mental health. There is just a continuum of the two, and we all fall in the middle. So what we can do is to provide something for everyone to protect their mental health, and this is the greatest potential for our solution, I believe, because that will save cost for the society, for the healthcare system, and it will just reduce the number of people falling in critical mental or physical health conditions.
Great, thank you, Martina. Ben, can we go to you now?
Yeah, I think the big change we're going to see is a real shift in people's approach and philosophy to willingness to include digital services as well as face-to-face services. This isn't just because of healthcare systems changing the way they're approaching it, but also even things like health charities, where traditionally a lot of their support was face-to-face groups physically meeting up. They're very much moving now to accept that they have to have a digital offering which is as extensive as their face-to-face offering. I think this can have really positive impacts, because even for someone, if they are part of a charity group and they know there's a meeting up somewhere in Birmingham, it may be on the other side of the city, and that doesn't mean it's accessible in any way, shape, or form. So I think the real change is going to be where digital support services are valued just as much as the face-to-face one. But I think they'll go both ways. I think the people who will go into face-to-face support services will now pick up more digital options. The people who had digital options may now have the confidence and connections to go into those face-to-face services too. So I think there's a real benefit that's going to come through that.
Great, thank you, Ben. And finally, Kelvin.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting question because sadly the pandemic has claimed a lot of lives, and for us as a company, we realize that the pandemic has also allowed us to achieve systemic change. And when we look at impact, while we thought that we are impacting positively the older adults, but the reality is it's not only the older adults, it's the care operator, it's the family. The family are worrying a lot, and they can't visit. They're a bit lost in terms of what's happening to mum, dad, or nan, and so for them, it's giving them peace of mind, and that's quite important for us. And while we are helping to keep people within their home setting, so less pressure within the NHS, for example, when we look at the older adult themselves, I think for me, the best part has been talking to one of the older adults. And she said to us, we've given her hope, we've changed her life completely. And that on itself is massive for us.
Kelvin, that's a great lead up to my next question, because each of you have identified some change, some significant change that's gone on, and some opportunities to make the world better. But can I now ask you what you think is sort of, and I'm going to ask you to be pretty brief on this, the single biggest barrier in the real world to achieving the sorts of things that you wish to achieve? And maybe I'll start this time with Kelvin, because you've been the last of three in the last questions.
Yeah, so for us, the biggest barrier is about shifting the whole mindset about technology being really hard, being very difficult, and also the concept of the big brother watching you, and especially when you're working with older adults, a lot of them didn't need internet, didn't need a smartphone, and they went through war. And when you talk to them that this is the technology that will help them, they ask very simple question: will that increase my electricity bill? This is as practical as it gets. And working with them to get them to realize the benefit to them has been the biggest challenge for us.
Great. Now let's look a little bit more internally to your organisation. So I had a look through the slide decks for your first pitch. That may seem like decades ago now. It was only a matter of 6 or 7 months or so. Clearly a lot's changed in the outside world, but can you identify one thing that's really changed as a result of the process that you've been through in each of your organisations? And maybe I'll start with Martina this time.
Yeah, so I think we have realized much more the strong link between cognitive health and physical health. So the link that there is about mind and body, and the ways that we can look at in terms of building a comprehensive solution that will look at different factors intervening on your overall well-being. We have realized the potential of our digital therapeutic of being not just what we call a brain workout, but also an active form of mindfulness. So it can really bring together the restoration part and the training part, so that like a comprehensive and holistic solution for people.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm going to congratulate you and your organisations on coming through the programme itself, but also, of course, what you achieved on the way. A lot of this, of course, is about the trajectory that you've now got, your sort of terminal velocity, if you like, coming out of the program. So the program's finished. What next for your organizations? And maybe I'll go to Kelvin first.
So we started as a product company, and over the past few months, it became very clear that we're not a product company. We are actually a data company offering healthcare as a service, and that is for us the focus of the company. How do we shift from being a product to a data company?
Great, thank you very much. Martina?
I think we have realized the importance of empowering people with our solution, and also looking after the contextual factor and intervene on cognition. And this has led us in building a new business model that we call the Mycognition Academy, which is a direct support to coaches to empower that profession, and at the same time enable people to have human engagement as well as the support of our technology. And on the other side, we are partnering with other groups to build a comprehensive platform where Mycognition will be part of, in order to join together the cognitive approach together with different approach like brain stimulation, and other solutions. And in our plans, in terms of improving our product, we have learned a lot from the program in terms of the AI, and we are looking at improving our internal algorithms to just empowering this from AI and making our solution much more personalized.
Right, thank you, Martina. And finally to Ben.
It's quite a simple change that from next year we'll be back in swimming pools, so we're looking forward to that. But what this process has enabled us is to provide not only our traditional B2B service, but now a B2C one for our subscription option. And we've realized that working very much in alignment with MSK Charity in that service is what our future looks like, which we're really excited about because they both go hand in hand, providing this direct to user as well as transforming leisure centres into community MSK hubs.
Great, thank you. And to all of you, thank you for sharing your insights. I've learned an awful lot from just listening to the three of you speak. Congratulations to you and your organisations for completing the programme and doing so in some, I think, of the most challenging conditions that Microsoft could have invented for you to go through. I can hear from what you say that it's been a transformational learning experience and part of a much, much more lengthy journey for all three of you and your three organisations as well. So thank you very much for your insights and sharing those with us, and I wish you all the very best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon.
That's great to hear about how AI and technology can help people lead healthier lives. Now I'm pleased to introduce to you our next panel on creating sustainable inclusive cities for the future, hosted by Harrison Jones from London and Partners, who will be discussing this topic with Akshat Kulkarni from OrxaGrid, Victor Dewell from Recycleye, Susan Meyer from EcoSync, and Tiernan Mines from Hello Lamppost.
This is Zsuzsa from EcoSync. I'm an engineer, I have a PhD in bioenergy, and I manage the development team of EcoSync, improving the energy efficiency of commercial buildings like hotels, hospitals, office buildings, or educational institutes. We are an Oxford-based company developing a cloud-based platform that can synchronize the temperature control of individual rooms with occupancy, so empty rooms won't waste your energy. Before COVID, we had 70% of the commercial buildings empty, but heated. And now, with most of us working from home, our empty offices are wasting more energy than ever before. We can help with that with a simple retrofitted solution called EcoSync.
Hi, I'm Tiernan. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Hello Lamppost. At Hello Lamppost, we bring inanimate objects to life, like talking bus stops, talking statues, lampposts, benches. We do this to help cities better understand their communities and to give more information that is easier to access to citizens. Ultimately, our vision is to better shape cities of the future that are more aligned to the areas where people live, work and play.
Hi there, I'm Akshat. I'm the co-founder of OrxaGrid. So at OrxaGrid, we've built an analytics platform to help companies across the electricity value chain in continuing to offer consumers access to reliable, affordable, and sustainable electricity. So what we do basically is through our IoT sensors and analytics platform, we help the companies understand how can they integrate more renewables into the network, how can they make sure that the network stays reliable, and most importantly, how can they make sure that consumers continue to get affordable electricity at all times. I'm looking forward to talk more about our solutions and what we can do for a sustainable energy future. Thank you.
Out of sight, out of mind. Rubbish is always somebody else's problem. At Recycleye, this problem is not out of sight. Our team, alongside our strategic partners, are building a waste scanning computer vision system that is for the first time enabling the true commoditization of waste, unlocking the merger of our removal chains back into our supply chains. We joined the program as two people and an idea. Today, we're graduating as a team of 14 mission-driven technologists and creatives that want to disrupt the entire waste industry with 21st century technology. Because we do not believe waste exists, only material in the wrong place.
Hello and welcome everyone to our panel discussion today, which is creating sustainable and inclusive cities of the future. My name is Harrison and I work for London & Partners, which is the official trade, investment and promotional agency for London, and specifically helping companies grow and scale internationally through the Mayor's International Business Program. Today, we're joined by a great panel of companies that are truly focused on sustainable and inclusive growth for the UK and hopefully the rest of the world, and specifically on AI for good. So we're going to kick off today with our first question, which is over to Victor. Can you give us a bit of background on how you got to where you are today and what made you interested in running a business that's focused on social good?
Sure. So before starting Recycleye, I was working at Goldman Sachs and essentially decided to resign for the much more sexier world of waste management. I actually started doing a PhD at Imperial, merging computer vision specifically for the waste management industry. And that very rapidly got spun out into its independent company because of the real traction we were getting. Early days was myself and my co-founder, very much bootstrapping from a garage. We literally went into the high street bins in Bournemouth to get our first waste samples, and our first conveyor belt was a 40-pound running treadmill of eBay. But luckily, since then, we've obviously scaled to a team of 14 sort of technologists that are really dedicated at making the waste sort of no longer exist. In our view, waste shouldn't exist because all material has value, and so long as you can just reduce the threshold to recycle it, then all of it should hopefully be gone and be turned into a resource.
Great, thank you. And from that perspective of building out your business, what was kind of the reasoning of focusing on the sustainability aspect from a point of social purpose and social good?
I think we actually more started on the fact that it was just a really interesting problem to solve. When we look at our removal chains, there's really no traceability or accountability versus our supply chains that are today super tracked. Coca-Cola can deliver products in all of the world's countries, yet who knows where your Coca-Cola ends up once it's gone into your bin. So it really started around bringing visibility so people can have an ecosystem view on the waste management industry and avoid sort of designing sort of small solutions that might in the long run actually have negative effects because they don't take into account the wider ecosystem of where those material flows end up.
Great, thank you for that. And definitely aligns very well across a lot of the companies that we have on the panel today, where it's interesting problems that also have a social impact and social net positive, which leads me to our next question, which is for Zsuzsa. When did you realize that AI could be utilized as a solution for the problem you were looking at?
Thank you for the question. Do you want me to talk about the technology as well, or just
Yeah,
jump?
that would be great.
Okay, so we are a cloud-based platform. So we developed a technology called EcoSync that can synchronize existing building technologies. And what we are interested in is finding empty rooms in commercial buildings and make sure that they are not wasting energy. So when we started to look into the problem of empty rooms and how to find them, we designed a system on paper, and we actually submitted a patent based on that, and that included AI and predictions, focusing on two things. One was the predict user patterns, like what time people arrive to your building, when do they leave for lunch break, when they're coming back. So that was something we were interested in, just to add an additional input. And we also realized that if we can make predictions on the overall energy consumption of a building, it will be very useful for energy providers as well, especially when they are moving away from a standard fossil fuel, focusing more on renewable energy, where it is very important to be able to predict the consumption of the users. So we knew that AI was important for us, and then we moved away for a while, doing lots of other development work, focusing on other input data sources. And then we circulated back, which was just a really interesting coincidence. I was interviewing junior developers all from Oxford University, and I came across an astrophysicist who, instead of talking about estimating energy output, he started to talk about reinforcement learning. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's actually something we could really use. And then the AI for Good program just accelerated that development.
No, that's great to know, and I think it also plays into my next question for Akshat around Internet of Things and how we live in this world of connected places that'll hopefully be learning from how we operate within them. So coming to you, Akshat, what or how do you see the Internet of Things continuing to progress in this area, especially around the marriage of AI, machine learning, and IoT, especially within the electrical grid system?
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Harrison. So from our experience, IoT helps us understand the impact of our actions on the real world, because IoT brings in more data, right, for companies to analyze. So when it comes to sustainability and the electrical world, right, we can use IoT to understand if there's any wastage of water, are we using energy efficiently, are we making the most of renewables, and so on, right? So as an example, we recently did a project in a rural electric utility in India, and because before IoT, the only solutions that they could use were expensive computers, fiber optic cables, big complex SCADA systems and whatnot, which are obviously too expensive for them to deploy in the rural regions. And as a result, they were basically relying on manually taking the readings of their energy lines, retroactively calculating how much energy is lost, how many power outages are happening, and so on. So obviously a very inefficient process, leading to consumers not getting reliable electricity, having blackouts, bad access to electricity, and so on. So what we did is we went in with a simple IoT setup. We deployed low-cost sensors on their different electricity lines, took the data into our server, analyzed the data, and quickly started giving insights, into where are these power outages happening. If there's any energy loss, we detect it, or we even are able to predict where problems may happen in the future. So overall, at a very affordable point, using IoT, companies, electric utilities are able to manage their supply better and eventually offer consumers better quality of power, right? So that's how an example of how IoT can make a difference in the sector.
Great, thank you. And relating to that and kind of circling back to something that Zsuzsa was talking about earlier, is how can we really leverage the data being collected by smart buildings, and especially in the prop tech space, to make buildings more sustainable?
So thank you for the question. And before I talk about how we use the data, maybe I mentioned that we collect the data completely different way. So when you think of smart buildings, the trend is to use IoT sensors and load the building with IoT sensors. The problem with that in our case is that if you have a commercial building with, let's say, 350 rooms and you want to measure occupancy and humidity and normally 5, 6, 7 different parameters, you have to bring in all those sensors, multiplied by 300 plus all the batteries. It's a massive pain. It's an upfront cost for facilities management. I don't think it's a good solution. So we are going kind of opposite of this trend. We are looking around what data is already available in the building, around the building, and we just really pull the data and make sure that they reach our cloud-based platform and our machine learning algorithms. So I'm talking about data coming from room booking system, the Wi-Fi system of the building, location-specific weather data. So we can actually learn a lot about buildings and their temperature profiles and occupancy and user behavior just by analyzing data, not investing in IoT technology. And once we have this data, we can use the reinforcement learning to learn the heating profile of the individual rooms, so we can figure out what's the right temperature. Are you going to have a meeting? Are there like 2 hours gap between 2 meetings? Does it make sense to turn off the heating, or actually it's more energy efficient to keep the set temperature? So you can learn a lot about the behavior of the rooms. I mentioned earlier that we also learn the pattern of the users. It's actually quite relevant now because with COVID, less people going to use the commercial building. It's approximately 10 to 20% of the people returning to the offices. So the new patterns will be completely different to the old ones. Again, we can adapt the energy consumption of the building to that occupancy. This way we make the building more energy efficient.
Great, thank you for that. And also relates really well into our next question, which is coming under the topic of inclusivity, especially around how consumers utilize buildings, spaces, both in the public and private realm, which is something that we've kind of already touched on today. But coming to you, Tiernan, from that perspective, how is Hello Lamppost working to make sure that solutions for cities are truly inclusive of all of its citizens?
Yeah, I think that's probably an element that's driving us as a mission. So we're all about reaching more people and lowering the kind of barriers to entry for information in our communities and our cities, but also lowering the barriers to entry to that feedback loop to the decision makers. So that's what's kind of like driving us from a mission and product perspective. And how we're doing that specifically is basically repurposing what's already there. We like to say that we're bringing communication and engagement to the street rather than the burden being on, the local authority or the citizen. So just integrating into everyday life. And that's kind of like how we started out, was looking at our urban environments and our indoor environments to say, well, these assets and hyperlocal reference points already exist, but they're all kind of single use. A bus stop is there to shelter people and a bench is there for people to sit on. But, rather than kind of like adding new assets or technology to assets, then why not just repurpose and add a digital layer to them? So that's really our approach. And that's kind of driving everything that we do, really, is if we can integrate into people's everyday lives, then actually like you're reaching more people, you're making them more inclusive wherever they are, whether they're just visiting or they're in their kind of like neighborhood street. But also from an access perspective, is why we originally started out connecting our platform to SMS. 98-point-something% of the UK's population have an SMS-enabled phone, not necessarily a smartphone, but that's kind of that was our approach to inclusivity, was let's use SMS because everyone's familiar with that tech and knows how to use it. So that's really kind of how we've approached it. It's from a people perspective. How do we seamlessly integrate into people's lives? Whether you're trying to find out information about a statue which isn't on the kind of bronze plaque, or whether you're trying to find out, what the council has planned and you want to feedback your opinions and feedback. That's kind of been our approach, is low barrier to entry and reach as many as people as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. We're going to go on to our next topic, which I think everyone in this conversation should have something to leverage in on. But AI is really intended for us to be making our world a more efficient and more powerful place. So whether that's consumers going about their daily lives in public spaces, or how we interact with our buildings and built environments, whether that's from the electric grid or how our buildings react to us and for us, or whether that's making sure that our recycling supply chains are more efficient for everyone who's involved in that process. So I'll first go to Victor on this, but then we'll kind of open it up to the rest of the people on the call today. But in terms of utilizing AI to increase the efficiency of your specific area of business, can you talk a little bit about that in terms of Recycleye?
Of course. So the value in using AI for Recycleye is essentially enabling us to use a more simple, basic, a lower cost sensor. But if we can combine it with intelligence, it can perform as a high performing sensor. And what I mean by this, generally the industry currently uses, say, near infrared sensing. Those cameras can cost anywhere between £50,000 to £100,000 per device. Which means we're never going to have these sort of ubiquitous scanning of waste. Now, other people have taken, there are loads of other approaches. Approach number one is use a barcode, but in waste, you have sort of a line of sight issue. Approach number two is let's use RFID, but it means you now need to put every single item, you need to put sort of toxic heavy metals, that's RFID, and it's harder to recycle because you now have metals on something that might be plastics, and it also costs more. And so actually the best sensor really is the human eye. If you look at a can of Coke, you know it's aluminium and you don't need X-ray or laser-induced spectroscopy. Similarly, you can even tell the brand, and you do that without reading a barcode or an RFID. And so AI is very much replicating that unique human ability to have a low-cost device that's able to scan entire waste streams to a much higher level of granularity as well. It's also going beyond simple material. Difference between, say, a cardboard Amazon box that's nice and clean, you want to recycle, versus a cardboard pizza box that might contain loads of leftover crusts. Or an espresso capsule that contains coffee, it's aluminium outside, versus an aluminium can. Again, you want to start being able to distinguish those things.
Great, thanks, Victor. Would anyone else like to chime in on that, on how using the power of AI can help us power efficiency within our different areas?
Yeah, sure. I'll touch on that briefly. For us specifically, it's a combination of a better user experience. So, already we're making inanimate objects speak to people on their mobile device, but what an AI is enabling us to is allow those objects to do more and more things for people wherever they are at any time. So we're talking like a parking meter being able to book parking for people, all the way through to tell them where a local point of interest is, all the way through to ask them how they're feeling today, right? So that's the kind of user interface and how we're using AI. The other side is from an analytics perspective. There's a lot of different people doing using AI like natural language processing and understanding to understand everything from entities to sentiments. And the more we can use elements of AI on that basis, because that's what we get coming into our platform is people's interactions. The more we can use AI from that perspective, the better the insights we can provide to local decision makers and in turn back to the citizen. So for us, it's a better user experience for the citizen and better data analytics really for us.
Great, thank you. Akshat, any last comments on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say we use AI to improve access to electricity, access to clean, reliable, and affordable electricity, right? So we've done different types of projects, and one thing that we did in this program, the Microsoft program, was actually use AI to build a tool that will help just consumers, like you and I, or even large consumers, quickly understand what is the right amount of solar and storage to install in order to lower your financial costs. So that's one very practical use of AI, and the idea is once you do this, you increase the quick uptake of low carbon technologies.
Great, thank you. And that, yeah, Tiernan.
Just a quick one for Akshat actually on that. I was just going to say, can you envisage a time where elements of AI are used in the household and on a commercial scale, whereby our energy consumption is pretty much automated to the best efficiency?
Sorry, if our energy consumption is automated to the best efficiency, can you use?
Through the use of AI, basically. So, a time where we don't even have to think about the consumption in a household or in an office or in a warehouse. It's done for us.
Yeah, I think that's probably what so we don't really work so much within the house. So we work more on what are the external things that you could put in the house, right? Like solar panels, storage, and so on. So what happens in the house, I think that'll come under a different portfolio from property manager's portfolio. I think but for us, it's like, yeah, what's the right combination you can have? And through these combinations, how do we manage these combinations in order to have the lowest energy costs? So it's a little external to what happens outside the house. But of course, it's all linked.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Akshat. And we're coming to our final question. So I'll first pop over to Zhuzha. Of looking beyond the program, what are the next big steps for your organization?
Actually, I think we've got two major challenges. One is, so the current technology is for heating control, and the obvious next step for us is cooling control, integrating air conditioning units into our platform. And cooling is actually less energy efficient than heating. So there's the saving opportunities is much higher. So we are analyzing the cooling market, both the technology side and the differences between countries and regions. And right now, it seems like that it will be Middle East and a good target location. The other thing we are working on right now is an improved user interface. And the reason we really wanted to emphasize the user access, because most of the temperature control and building technologies, they just leave out the end users from the picture. It's normally a technology running in the basement where there's like an engineering team managing it, and you have no real interaction with your built environment. So we already developed a user interface. We are very actively inviting the users to interact with the building, and they don't need to download any app, so it's easy to access the technology. But we don't want to stop here. We really want to see if we can change user behavior and make it more sustainable. So how you interact with your building and have not just the comfort in mind, but sustainability as well. And the reason for that is because if you are a landlord or a facilities manager, there are three things you can look into when it comes to sustainability. One is to decarbonizing the grid, get rid of the less non-green energy sources and change it over to solar or biogas or whatever is available in your region. Second thing you can do is improve the energy efficiency of the building. This is our area of expertise. And the third thing they do is user behavior. So we cannot leave out the users from the entire equation. And what we are working on right now is a gamification approach. So it's a reward system where the users, they get rewarded for more sustainable behavior. And with a bit of gamification, there is already that extra challenge that will motivate them to do better, do more, return to this user interface and interact with the buildings more. So this was originally requested by student accommodation buildings using our technology, where we're going to set up a competition. It can be a room by room level competition, or it can be a building by building level competition, or long term we can even set up university by university competition, and they promote sustainability even more.
Great, thanks, Zhuzha. And last but certainly not least, we'll come to Tiernan on what are next steps for the team and yourself at Hello Lamppost.
Similar to Victor, so we're just about to close our first funding round. So we're growing the team, and really the next big steps for us are expanding our customer base in the UK and North America, and potentially Australasia. We've just launched in Sydney this week in Australia, which is super exciting. So really, yeah, it's working with more cities and more communities in the UK and North America, and some big product milestones which to be announced.
Great. Thanks so much. Well, thank you, Victor, Tiernan, Akshat, and Zsuzsa for a great conversation today on our panel about creating sustainable and inclusive cities of the future. Can't wait to see where you all end up next. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Harrison.
Thanks, Harrison.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Very exciting to hear about the technology being built for a more sustainable future for all of us. I'd now like to introduce to you Bianca Karatov from Microsoft, who will be doing a fireside chat with Guy Stern, the founder of Baobab Connect, who's using technology to help scale up equal access to justice.
Hey, I'm Guy Stern. I'm the CEO of Legal Connection and the creator of Baobab Connect. There are currently 5 billion people in the world who have an unmet justice need. Most people simply cannot afford to speak to a lawyer, and so 70% of all legal cases go unresolved. The answer lies in the human cloud. Baobab Connect is a platform specifically designed for organizations that are on the front line of the fight for access to justice. The product centers around a multi-party chat in which clients, paralegals, public interest litigators, and pro bono lawyers work together to resolve cases. Using Microsoft Azure's natural language processing, we are able to analyze these cases, optimize outcomes, and measure impact at scale. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. Right, so we've had a few conversations in my capacity as your cohort connector. So I already know some of the answers to these questions, but for the benefit of...
I'll try to keep it interesting.
For the benefit of everyone else watching this, can you tell me a little bit about how you developed the idea, what your vision was, and what your inspiration was behind what you've created?
Sure. You know, it happened in a very roundabout, zigzaggy kind of way. I was developing a chat application for lawyers and customers called Legal Connection. I then entered the Global Legal Hackathon in 2018 in South Africa. The topic was access to justice. I was a bit tired of that Legal Connection product, so I decided to do something completely different, and I landed up working on a series of videos, tutorial videos, which would help you with your justice problem, like you know, a tutorial on how to do your own divorce or how to do your own eviction order. And then we won, you know, we came second in the hackathon. We landed up winning the Hill Innovating Justice Pitching Challenge in South Africa around that video idea. But the video idea on its own didn't really solve the problem that it was pertaining to solve. Everyone who watched the video had another question, and they all wanted to be connected to a lawyer through, you know, a WhatsApp or something like that. And so, funnily enough, we landed up doubling back onto the chat application for lawyers and customers, but in the access to justice space, where we would take someone who needed some legal advice, a paralegal who was working with them, and a lawyer from a big law firm who was willing to do some pro bono, and we put them all in the chat room together. We initially made those chat rooms in WhatsApp because that was just the easiest product we could do. And in parallel, we started building our own chat application, which would be sort of, you know, a WhatsApp of law. You know, it would have chat, but then also the ability to share files, the ability to set up tasks, the ability to refer matters between lawyers, where one lawyer could pick up on the conversation and see where what had been written before. And that was the genesis of Baobab Connect, which is, you know, now a product under the Legal Connection umbrella.
So I know you actually had quite a few pieces of good news recently. So I know it's going in the right direction, and I'm so excited to see how it's going to progress.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I guess the big news this week is that there's a law clinic in Kenya who wants to use our product. So they're called Strathmore Law Clinic. You know, I had to meet with them a couple of times. You've been advising me and cheering me on. Actually, you introduced me, didn't you?
I don't recall. I think
you introduced me to someone who introduced me to Strathmore. You introduced me to someone here in London, and then they put me in touch with the law clinic, and then I pitched it to them. And last week they got together and they decided to use our platform. Then early on Monday morning, I did the training course, and I just checked in on them again. And yeah, it's always slow in the beginning when you're onboarding users, but it's 7 users who are going to be using our software to help, you know, hopefully hundreds of people over the next few.
That's brilliant. You never really know when, you've met the right person and that person can introduce you to someone else. So that's great to hear. I guess my follow-up question to you is a slightly more out there question, given the current circumstances that we're in.
Go for it.
But in an ideal world, what would the justice legal system look like in the next 5 years or so?
That's not a strange question. I think about that every day.
All right, give us the monologue.
I live and breathe. So we have, in my ideal world, every lawyer and every legal professional, they know about Legal Connection, and much in the same way that, you and I would have a video call and we would just say, let's meet on Teams, or, we would want to go for coffee and we'd say, let's meet at Costa. In my ideal world, any two people working on a legal case together would say, let's get together on Legal Connection and set up this case, and then we can invite our colleagues and we can all work together. I think that it makes a lot of sense in the corporate legal profession, for lawyers to be using it with their paying clients. It makes a lot of sense in the access to justice context for law clinics. And then I think that the sort of sustainability is that those two worlds meet, the sort of paid work and the sort of free pro bono work. There's a lot of space where they intersect, and where lawyers maybe do 7 hours a day of paid work and 1 hour a day of free work, and they're able to do it on the platform. Or a case starts off as pro bono, but then it turns out the customer actually can pay something, and there's a lot of room to sort of maneuver. And I don't two different worlds. I don't think it's the corporate legal world has one lot of software and the pro bono law clinics have another kind of software. I think that in my dreams we join them both together, and that's the reason why I came on the Microsoft AI for Good Accelerator, is because I wanted to ensure that as the product grows, even in this early stage, we keep grounded and we remember those users, so that we don't sort of sell out and become just another legal tech product to be sold into the biggest firms.
Well,
and anyone, and you can hold me to that. I'm on records saying this.
I will show you this in a few months and remind you of what you've said.
Please do. I never want to sell out.
Well, that actually leads me on to my next question quite easily. What is next for you and Legal Connection? What can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, so right now we are in a funding phase. Our product, we're on Crowdcube, so we decided, because we're into democratization and all that, it made sense, rather than just going to one investor, we would put it out to the crowd and get a few hundred investors, each putting in a small amount. So that's right now on Crowdcube. I don't know, depending on when people watch it, they might find it on crowdcube.com. If we've launched publicly, but currently it's in private mode. And even in this private mode, you can still find it by either finding me on LinkedIn, or by finding my company and following the link, or by going to crowdcube.com/legal connection. And, that could be a little bit. And crowdcube.com/legal connection. You'll see our crowdfunding. There's a video. It talks about the big dream of the product, and much more around the the commercialization components of it. But yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. That's my big focus. And at the same time, through this crowdfunding, we're having a lot of conversations with people. Some of them are would-be investors, but they actually land up, knowing someone in the legal profession, or maybe they're a lawyer themselves, and they can use our platform. So, we're doing a lot of business development as well, trying to get the product in front of as many people as possible.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, I've worked with you this entire time, and I know how brilliant this will be. So I'm very glad to hear that it's going in the right direction. And I have seen the video.
Thanks.
Highly encourage everyone to watch it as well.
Yeah, it took us a while to make the video, and I am proud of it. The hardest thing is to get people to watch it. Send them, they'll message me and they'll give me some feedback, and I'll say, "Have you watched the video?" And they say, "Not yet." And then I said, "Just please watch the video." And then once they watch it, they come back to me and they go, "Wow, okay, that's really something. Let's talk." So if I could get more eyeballs on that video, I think it might help as well. And also your support has been great. It's a hard journey being a founder, and speaking to someone who's cheering us from the sidelines has been great. So I appreciate it.
You've got this. I've got every faith in you and the initiative. So yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for a really interesting fireside chat, Bianca and Guy. And now for our final plan of the day. I'd like to introduce Hector Minto, the Senior Accessibility Evangelist at Microsoft, who will be hosting a panel on how we can create a more accessible and equitable world with Margaret Totten from Akari, Mark Applin from Signly, and Jordi Fernandez from BeneTalk.
Hi, I'm Margaret Totten, Managing Director of Akari Solutions. At Akari, we use technology to level the playing field for people with hidden and situational disabilities. We use AI and the Microsoft product stack and our own unique IP to build solutions for people with situational disabilities such as English as second language and hidden disabilities like autism, dysgraphia and dyslexia. We've built our own IP, including unique conversational chatbots built within Microsoft Teams that allow people to access information they need, train and learn, and level the playing field to allow them to compete and work in school alongside everyone else. We believe that technology is the way to change the world for how people can live, learn, and work.
Hello, my name is Jordi, and I am the founder of BeneTalk. BeneTalk vision is to build the most accessible and effective AI speech therapy that has the potential to transform the life of 10% of the population. I am one of these people, since I am a person who stutters, and there is no viable technological solution to solve this problem. For this reason, we created BeneTalk. BeneTalk is an AI speech therapist that works 24/7, providing learning practice and immediate feedback. Unlike other alternatives, it helps to master fluency speaking habits during everyday activities. Think of Fitbit plus Cortana. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mark from Signly. For years, assistive technology has been supporting the blind and low vision community with access to information online. But the deaf community who use sign language have been excluded. Sign language is a visual language, not written. And so for this community, written English can be impenetrable. Their preferred method of communication is sign language. So meet Signly. Think screen reader, but for deaf sign language users. Signly easily and quickly adds sign language to any web page with minimal coding on the part of the site owner. Navigating COVID-19 has been a nightmare for the deaf community. We can change that quickly now. Meet Signly, powered by Azure.
Hi, I'm Hector Minto. I'm the Senior Technology Evangelist for Accessibility for Europe, based here in the UK. Accessibility is an incredibly important topic for Microsoft. It feeds into our mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Every person. We now live in a world where the 1 in 6 people with disabilities on the planet access technology on a daily basis. We can no longer design out that part of the population. This session is going to really focus on how to build accessibility into the culture of your organization, into the product, and then maybe to have a think about how we innovate to make sure that we include people with disabilities. You know, accessibility starts with representation, having a conversation inside your organization. And in this time of COVID that we're all living through, accessibility needs to be viewed as the route to information, often critical information. We're not going to build that digital world that excludes 1 in 6 of the population. COVID's been a wake-up call to so many of our customers, both in terms of their employee base, but also in terms of their customer interaction. You really cannot underestimate how much more prepared for remote working on scale the customers that we were engaging with on the readiness on accessibility were during this time of crisis. People were returning to work at home and finding the tools for inclusion built into their devices, and they knew how to find them. But let's turn to innovation. You know, I have one of those great jobs, I have to say, where every month I get to relay a new feature, a new nugget of gold that just sort of delivers a more routinely accessible experience, because all across the Microsoft technology world, our product teams are delivering amazing experiences. They're taking AI and they're embedding it into the standard Microsoft experience to rethink the experience of people with disabilities. As part of our investment in innovation, we've been running an AI for Good program for the last two years in the UK. This is a cohort that includes innovative startups investing across a whole range of social values, including accessibility. We want to stimulate and support innovation in this space. We know that we have to collaborate and share our experiences if we're going to really scale and make a difference. And so as such, I'm delighted to be joined by 3 of this year's cohort to discuss just how important and frankly exciting this space is. we'll be joined by Jordi Fernandez from BeneTalk, who's designed an amazing solution for people who stammer, building a data set to make sure that we can start thinking about how we deliver therapy to people worldwide. We'll be joined by Margaret Totten from Akari, who's delivered a virtual assistant to make sure that people can find the accessibility features that they need, both in education and in the workplace. And finally, we're joined by Mark Applin from Signly, an amazing browser extension that delivers British Sign Language to people who require that as their first language all across the web. So with that, I'm going to start with my first question to the cohort. Hi, Jordi. I just want to start with a question first on, what really drives you? What's your inspiration to work in the field of accessibility?
Thanks, Hector. So yes, I am a person who stutters, and since the age of 5, I could not say one clear word. So when I was a child, I used to think when I will grow up, I will find the magic pill to fix my stuttering. And I guess that is the reason why I am here now. So I went to many speech therapists until I found one that went out of the room with me and forced me to speak with 100 people every day in the street. So stammering is a chronic condition, and I still have to practice every day. But that therapy itself transformed my life. So I thought, why we cannot build a speech tracker that acts as an AI speech therapist 24/7? And that is what wake me up every morning to try to find a solution to stutter and try to help people like me. Something important to say is that I am not after the solution to stutter, but I am looking for why we don't stutter because of suffering. Sorry, I just make the whole thing wrong. If I repeat again, so something to note is that I am after the solution to stop suffering because of stuttering. Because what is important is that we have this conversation. It doesn't matter if I stutter. What is important is you have a conversation with me and you can understand me. And what is interesting, this as a byproduct, the fluency increases.
Amazing. And obviously, somebody who lives with a stutter on a daily basis, you are the one that really brings that daily lived experience to your solution. I think that's fantastic. So turning to Margaret. Margaret, you've been a partner of Microsoft for years, but now you're driving into the field of accessibility. What's driving this?
So as well as being in the world of technology, I also happen to be the parent of a child with high functioning autism. And about 3 years ago, I attended a Microsoft event to see what Microsoft were doing around inclusion and accessibility. And I found out some statistics which I hadn't known before, which shocked me. So at present, less than 15% of adults in the UK with autism are currently in full-time employment. And less than 25% of kids who go on to further higher education with autism or neurodiversity are finishing their degree or their courses. So I wanted to look into what caused that, because I have a little boy who in 4 or 5 years is going to be entering that world of education and entering that world of work. So I started Akari, which is a new Microsoft partnership, about 2 years ago, and focused on bringing Microsoft's dream of accessibility to life. So what we tried to do is use technology to drive digital inclusion, which is how we came across Eva and Edie, which you discussed in the beginning. But it was driven mainly by the strides that Microsoft have made in accessibility and what I want to see for the future of my son and kids like him.
I can't tell you how delighted I am to hear that. We're growing our confidence on accessibility. And so when we then see our partner network reacting like that and, just going for it, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I also think you're really, you're getting into this topic of employment. The thing we know that happens with disability is that people stay in education for a long time, but the drop-off, of inclusion starts at the workplace. Entering the workplace is a real challenge for people with disabilities. So, this is fantastic. Okay, turning to you, Mark. I've been monitoring Signly for some time. What was the spur to get you started?
Well, for me, to be honest, it was something of an epiphany. So 4 years ago, I didn't have deaf friends, didn't have deaf family, wasn't working in an accessibility space, but in partnering with a deaf charity, I started to understand something of deaf culture. So what it is to identify as deaf with a big D, to be very proud of the fact that you're a sign language user, not to see your deafness as a disability, and for that community, English is a second language. But the hearing world, hearing organisations, either by accident, well, probably by accident, put up a lot of barriers in terms of communication. And I suppose working in technology, it struck me tech has done so much good for the blind and visually impaired community, yet for deaf sign language users, virtually nothing. So it struck me as a hearing person's problem, and that potentially tech could do something to augment the existing provision and make communications less fraught.
And again, this lived experience really rings through, doesn't it? You know, we assume that just having captions available is just, that's all we require, right? But obviously it's only when you're living in that experience and working closely with that community that you start to recognize some of the nuance there. I think this is a really important point. So obviously you're all businesses and you're all startups and you have the same ambitions as any startup out there. You know, you've got to start thinking about your business model. Obviously, you know, that's challenging, especially in these times of COVID. You know, how do you get airtime and how do you get people to buy into your product? Mark, what are you thinking? You know, what's the business opportunity here?
Nothing less than global scale. So there's a kind of vacuum, especially in COVID, as you mentioned, in terms of information being accessible to the deaf community. As one of the reasons why we picked Azure as a platform, our team is only too strong, but if you have that aspiration to globally scale, Azure enables us to do that. So our mantra is any sign language on any website to be able to make any content accessible, provided the corporate switches the service on. It's as simple as that.
And the corporate's going to be critical here, right? So people watching today, you know, they're going to need to start thinking, okay, you're delivering your information via text, but the future is going to have to also include sign language, right?
Exactly.
So this turns us, you know, more generally to this concept of AI. You know, as startups and joining the cohort, you know, what did you learn about AI by going through that process? Margaret, what were your preconceptions about AI, and where did it go through the process?
I think my preconceptions were it was a lot more complex than I originally thought. And we learn very quickly to fail fast, learn quickly and try again. So we have our own apps which are built around digital inclusion like Ava and Edie, but we also realise that what we're building doesn't fit every customer. And we're very lucky that as a Microsoft partner, we're able to go in and deliver their own apps and deliver what they needed. So we learned very quickly to understand what customers want and how easy it is to actually start putting AI into the hands of organisations to help them help themselves. But another thing we learned very quickly is how open the market is and how we have to break down those barriers. So we set out to create an organisation that would bring digital inclusion to all, but then there was a barrier of cost. So we had to rethink it. So the cohort helped us look at what our barriers to entry were for some partners and some organisations, like cost, and how can we then use AI to build a free model. Now, if you look at the complexity of AI, how can you possibly build an app that's free and give it out to tens of thousands of people and still be a viable business? But that's what we're able to do with Edie, which launched this week, and that was only due to the fact that we were using AI that could be scaled quickly and that could be used by multiple people through different formats, and also that it could be used by citizens and developers, and it could be used by people with less technical knowledge than you would first expect. So I've learned that AI is a lot more open than I probably thought it was when we started the business.
It's great to hear. Mark, when you started Signly, you weren't thinking AI, you were just thinking browser extension. What's AI adding to Signly?
I think it's when you get this convergence of AI and HI, human intelligence, that's when you can achieve something wonderful. So using Azure, using cloud, we've been able to take a scarce resource, sign language translators, there's not enough of them. And previously, provision was all face-to-face. So around the country, interpreters or translators would be translating, I don't know, COVID content. Now, using cloud, we can capture that content once, sign once, and serve many. So that's been something of a breakthrough, but also to start to think about sign language in terms of knowledge bases, sign language knowledge bases that can serve the deaf community. It's just been a tweak to our thinking that once you've embraced that idea, you can think, well, could we output the knowledge maybe in terms of a sign language chatbot? Again, using real people, real translators, but using Azure to scale that. So there's been a number of progressions to our thinking during the course of the program, for sure.
And so much of the data capture on sign language has been around television content and entertainment, hasn't it? Whereas now you're going to be capturing the business of the world, of commerce or of customer facing, right? So that's going to really drive that data, that data source through, right?
And meantime, it's providing real world benefit to the deaf community. It's a tool that they can use right now. It's not something that just exists in a lab for the purposes of research.
So another part of the cohort was access to industry specialists and actually kind of, learning how to partner with Microsoft to take your solution to market. How's that experience gone? Mark, can we start with you on that?
I think all the best partnerships are born on shared values. And even though Microsoft is massive and we're small, certainly when we thought about who the best big tech to partner with was, it was definitely those cultural values that are really important. Microsoft makes a lot of sense when it talks the talk, but it also backs that up in equal measure with action. So for us, that was really, really important. I mean, the support and advocacy, amplification, introductions, the credibility we have garnered through the relationship has just been phenomenal. I mean, the doors that have been opened to us for conversations have been at such a high level, because if Microsoft says something is important to their clients and users, it's likely we'll get a hearing ear. And so it's made a difficult job much easier. And, we're really grateful for that.
And actually, in our work with you, what I reflect on is accessibility and disability inclusion is quite often a board level conversation. People don't often think that they can take this conversation up. But the more and more we meet business leaders around the world, they're really putting their kind of, their stake in the sand and saying, actually, inclusion must be a value of ours, and they're looking for ways to demonstrate it. So yeah, this is perfect. Margaret, from your perspective, what was the business partnership element of the cohort work that worked for you?
Well, we've been a Microsoft partner. I've been in the Microsoft partner channel for over 10 years now, so I'm very comfortable and used to working with Microsoft. But where it's brought real added value is I'd never ran a product business before. So although we do services, I've always done that, but product was brand new to me. I think Mark put it very well that Microsoft very much do walk the walk and talk the talk. Because inclusion mattered, I found that people were wanting to listen. If you look at what we just discussed with Edie, a big part of that is the education market. I know my son sometimes struggles asking questions. He feels they can be a nuisance if he's constantly asking questions again and again and again. And so many kids are like that, and they don't understand how much technology is out there to help them, and they're almost afraid to ask. So having access to the education market and understanding how the education team at Microsoft work and how they're approaching schools and how they're working with and helping schools allowed us to be able to tweak the product to make sure that it was ready for market. That industry knowledge is really invaluable. So we always knew Microsoft was the perfect partner because I've worked with them for years. They care about inclusion. They follow through in what they say. But what I probably wasn't aware of is just how much industry insight Microsoft have around inclusion, how it can help organisations. And that actually helped us grow in the last year and a half in a way that would maybe take some businesses 3, 4, 5 years to get to the stage we're at the moment.
And that culminated in you getting a global D&I award for Microsoft Partners this year.
It did. So that's one of our proudest moments. We have went for Microsoft Partner Awards before, both in this organisation and previously, and this year it's the inaugural award for diversity and inclusion. And again, I think that showcases how much Microsoft are taking this seriously, because the Partner Awards are a massive deal. They're things partners aspire to be, and this year was the very first D&I award. We went for it and we won, and we were massively proud to do that.
I've had Microsoft leaders from our corporate headquarters saying to me, tell me about Akari. How did they start this? So I think this is great. Okay, and Jordi, over to you. In terms of the thinking about scaling your business or finding good partners to work with, how did the cohort support that?
So yes, I mean, when we started the cohort, we were a hardware company, and we had a very great help regarding the strategy, and we realized that we moved from hardware company to data-driven software company that uses sometimes hardware. So that is an important point, because in other words, we realized that 90% of what we wanted to do could be just done by software rather than hardware. And those were great news, because building hardware as anything, so building anything is hard, building hardware is harder. So by using the power of some Microsoft APIs, we can do our development faster. and cheaper. So I think we changed the complete strategy of where we are now, from the last 6 months.
So access to kind of real technical experts with the experience of building platforms and scaling. That's the real benefit.
Yes, but also the fact that we realized that we didn't have to do that the AI can do a lot of things that before we were thinking that was not possible.
Okay.
If this makes sense. So we were doing a lot of things within the hardware, where now we are doing a lot of things in the cloud.
Which also allows you to scale more ambitiously. You know, selling hardware around the world comes with all sorts of other issues. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so we're almost at time. I think what I just want to do is just give you the floor for a minute each. You know, what's your call to action? You know, we've been joined by business leaders from around the UK today, all from different industries. What do you want them to know about each of your solutions? So I'm going to start with you, Margaret.
I think what I'd like them to know is how important inclusion is and how much it's growing, and they can take action now. Everyone sometimes thinks it's an insurmountable task. How can an organisation with 20 and 30,000 users embrace inclusion in a quick and effective way? They think it's too big. It's really not. So start talking to partners like ourselves, start talking to companies that are making this difference, and you'll find it's very, very easy to start including digital inclusion and accessibility in your organisation in really quick, practical ways.
Yeah, signposting is critical. Mark, 1 minute.
Deaf sign language users in the UK and beyond want equal access to content in their first language, sign language, and we now have the ability to do that. I think COVID presents us with a unique opportunity. I think, as you said, C-suite are getting this more than ever, and perhaps more than anyone else in their own organisations. Lloyds Bank's Chief Procurement Officer, our first client, said, we have a moral imperative to do this. That's his business case, and I echo that and I commend it. I think that we can turn the current situation around a bit and do some real good in difficult times.
And that moral imperative reflects really well on their brand. You know, that's another thing to really kind of think about here. Jordi, wrap us up.
So I would like to say 2 points. So first of all, I used to think that there were three types of people in the world: people who stutter, fluent people, and me. So I didn't want to feel inclusive of a group of people who stutter. So if people like me doesn't want to belong of a group of people who stutter, how we can make that everyone that has this problem want to belong to this group? So and be part of the inclusion. So I think that it's very hard work to make sure that we work with inclusivity, and everyone who has managed to embrace this should be proud of him or herself. So as Mike Oliver, a professor who devised the social model of disability, said, our impairments don't disable us, the society does. And we should always have this in mind when we take decisions. So the second point that I wanted to say is I'm speaking now because I was lucky enough to get enough therapy help during all my life. And we are looking to raise a round of funding with the help of Innovate UK. We just get a grant, but we have to get the match funding. So if any of you would like to be part of this round, please send me an email to jordi@benetalk.com and be part of a great journey to help people with speech impediments like me. Thank you.
That's a brilliant way to finish. You know, the social model of disability says it's society that disables people. It's not the person with the disability. And that means that it's all of our responsibilities to proactively design for everybody. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. Good luck over the next year. Maybe we'll have another session next year to recap and see how much further we've gone on our journeys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great session. I really hope you enjoyed hearing from some of the latest innovators taking the best of cloud and AI and applying them to social good. You know, accessibility is just one of those topics that just lives everywhere within Microsoft, from our headquarters, where we're really digging into innovating within our products that are reaching UK customers on a daily basis, all the way through to thinking about the next generation of innovators driving digital inclusion for tomorrow's society. If you don't know where you are on your journey on accessibility, then I would encourage you to go to our link, aka.ms/accessibility journey, and start thinking about how you can drive this conversation within your organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that incredible panel, Hector, and to all of our founders who joined for that discussion as well. How fascinating and really, really exciting to hear about the work that they're doing there as well. Now, as you can imagine, we are thinking about next year and how we're going to be topping even the incredible things that we've done this year. To help us understand and share a little bit more about what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Pablo Casabon, who's going to be sharing what our next wave will look like and getting you all excited about all of those exciting things to come as well.
Thanks a lot, Amali. And congratulations, Hector, Mark, Jordi, and Margaret for this amazing panel. It's incredible to see how you're building a more accessible world and empowering people with Microsoft tech. So congratulations, and really, really happy to see all you've achieved since I first met you. So with that, I have some exciting news. We're launching the version 3 of the cohort. And of course, you know, for version 2, we had to adjust a lot for COVID. COVID has changed a lot of things and our relationship with the accelerator. So for version 3, we would love to, for the social impact entrepreneurs to continue to be catalyzer for the social impact of the UK and also for the economic recovery of the UK. So we've specified and we've focused on 2 industries that have been, on the one hand, very impacted by the pandemic, but on the other show massive, massive opportunity. There's headspace for innovation. Data and AI can really accelerate what they're doing for the UK. So we want to continue focusing on this, which are the healthcare and the manufacturing and resources industries. And being more specific within this, we've outlined 3 AI use cases for which we'll seek to find the best social impact entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things in here. So in manufacturing and resources, what we're trying to look for is people that are working towards a more sustainable supply chain, that are transforming the future of water and renewable energy, and that are thinking on how the factory of the future will look like, both in the technologic sense and also on the relationship with workers. And in healthcare, we're looking for people that are using data and AI to impact and improve the lives of marginalized communities, that are thinking on how do we make pre-detection of cancer easier and faster, and also that are dreaming the future of the hospitals. So both on a technological standpoint, but also on how the people that go to work there, nurses, doctors, scientists, NHS trust, etc., will look like in the future. So we'll be announcing more details soon, but we wanted to do soft launch here because all of our best startups come from alumni referrals. So if you know someone that is doing amazing things in these 2 industries, there's 6 AI use cases, please refer them back to us and we'd love to have a chat. Thanks. That's amazing. So I'll pass the mic on to Ed from Social Tech Trust for some words, and then to Amali again to wrap this event up. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Pablo. First, I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved in the AI for Good 2020 Accelerator. From those organising and providing the workshops and supporting the ventures, to the ventures themselves, and you as the audience joining us here today. You're part of our community, and we hope you'll continue to support the ventures you've heard from on their journey to solve the social challenges that they're working on. We're looking forward to great things from our 2020 AI for Good cohort. At Social Tech Trust, our vision's a world where social transformation drives technology, and our new UK Recovery AI Accelerator aims to further this by putting the needs of people and communities at the core of how technology and solutions are built. The programme focuses on 2 areas. Firstly, those especially hard-hit parts of the UK where the impacts of COVID have contributed to factories and businesses shutting down. We aim to work with ventures who have solutions to how we can change the future of work in these areas. Secondly, there's also an urgent need to scale up equitable access to remote healthcare technology in the wake of COVID. And we're looking for ventures who can help to address this issue with their tech and AI. If you're a venture and you're working in one of these areas, or if you know of someone who is, please do apply or share our call for applications. The accelerator opens today and closes in the first week of December. Thanks for your time, and now I'd like to pass back to Amali for a few closing words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ed. Has been so fantastic partnering with Social Tech Trust on this programme. And that, I'm afraid, is it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm sure you all have agreed that it has been fantastic to see these companies and hear their incredible stories and the impact that they're having on the world. I'm obviously very much looking forward to next year and the more exciting things that we'll be getting up to. And again, congratulations to our AI for Good cohort 2020. Thank you very much for joining.
Hi everyone, it's great to see that this graduation is happening. It's amazing to see how much every startup has progressed since we first met. I remember the launch in the Shoreditch office, the conversation I had with you, and even before from the applications and how your startups and your great passion came into life in the first forum, then our first Teams chat to decide if you were going to be a part of the accelerator, and all of the check-ins we've had alongside the journey. So thanks a lot for everything, your passion and your energy, and I would love to stay in contact with you. You are now part of the alumni, and if there's anything we can do to help, we will always be here. So thanks a lot and congratulations again.
Congratulations, AI for Good cohorts. Wishing you all the best. We'll miss you. Woo!
A very warm congratulations on your graduation. It's been such a pleasure to work with such inspirational people and companies on your commercial growth strategies. Great to work with you, and I wish you all the very best for the future. Well done.
It has been a pleasure to work with you all as part of this year's AI for Good cohort. It has been a rewarding experience to see most of you have now adopted AI in a very meaningful way as part of your core offering. I'm certain that some of your AI solutions will go on to solve some of the most pressing problems of our society and our economy. So just wanted to wish you happy graduation, well done and well deserved. My last piece of advice, think big, start small and act fast. Keep in touch and all the best for your bright future.
I just wanted to take a moment to say congratulations on completing the program. It is a phenomenal achievement and you should be incredibly proud of yourselves. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you. I wish you all the best in the future and I look forward to watching all of your initiatives continue to succeed.
Hey everyone, it's Chester here from the experiential team at Microsoft. Firstly, a huge congratulations to you all for the progress you've made throughout the year and throughout the cohort program, and also a really big thank you for getting involved in a number of different events throughout the year, from CogX back in June to Envision just recently, and then of course the panels. I can't wait to see what you all do next.
Congratulations everyone, you have made it to graduation. So proud of you all. You've worked so hard since February and it's been great to have you as part of the program. It's been awesome to see the community that you've created, to go from everything in person to then changing everything to online. You all reacted so well. And I cannot wait to see the amazing things you're all going to achieve over the next months, over the next years. You're all so diverse, you're all so brilliant, and I miss you all so much, and I can't wait to see the future yous.
Congratulations everybody on your graduation. You've done so well this year with all the difficult circumstances around COVID-19. I look forward to hearing all the stories about what you do in the future and the impact that you're going to create.
I just want to say thank you for letting us help you make a difference. It's been brilliant working with you.
Congratulations for graduating the AI for Good Accelerator program. It's been a really challenging time, which has shown just why we need purpose-driven ventures like you to succeed. And we're really proud to have worked with you all at Social Tech Trust and look forward to seeing how you continue on your impact journey. Good luck.
Congratulations, AI for Good cohort. We're so proud to have been part of your journey in transforming lives with tech, and we can't wait to see what you achieve next. Well done.
It's been a real pleasure working with you on your social impact. I know you're going to go on and achieve some incredible things. Congratulations, good luck with everything, and please keep in touch.
Hi guys, congratulations on graduating today. It's been such a pleasure working with you, and we really can't wait to see what you achieve going forward. So best of luck, and remember to keep in touch and let us know if there's anything we can help with. Congrats again.
Hi folks, Siham here. Congratulations on your graduation. It was a pleasure to have crossed paths with you. Don't forget, it's the depth of your relationships and the quality of your conversations that means anything is possible. All the best.
Congratulations everyone, and this is just a beginning.
Hello, AI for Good cohort. Amali here, obviously MD of Startups. I can't quite believe we're at this point where we're getting to the end of the cohort experience itself, but obviously definitely not the end of our relationship. It has been such a pleasure getting to know all of you over the previous months. I am truly inspired by all the work that you are doing. I know how hard it is to do the job that you're doing as far as building companies, and particularly doing ones which are just so impactful as well. So I did just want to wish you good luck, obviously, with your continued growth. Stay in touch. We're still around, and obviously we will be bothering you and pulling you in to be profiled and share more about the incredible work that you're doing. And really, it has been such a pleasure and an honor to get to know you, and looking forward to being able to celebrate the graduation with you as well. Thank you.
Congratulations.